So in other words, once you learn something, you've expanded your mind because that stimulates your thinking, that hones your thinking, and I guess before absorbing, you have to find the information, and then synthesizing it, analyzing it, and drawing some conclusions and telling people about it. So one thing that was a really huge influence on me and something I think about every day today is something that I encountered when I was an undergraduate in the United States, and that's the field of organizational behavior. In Japanese, that would be Soshiki Koudou Gaku. And I was really lucky that the first course I took was with a professor named Rosabeth Moss Cantor, and she's one of the leading people in the field. So when I tell people who know about organizational behavior that she was my first professor, they're all really quite jealous of me. And I got fascinated by this field, and what organizational behavior looks at is, as you would guess from the name, how people behave in organizations. And so, there's individual behavior, but then when people get together in groups and in large companies or governments or other large organizations, the way they behave is influenced by the structure and the policies of those organizations. So organizational behavior looks at all those topics. And in my work as a consultant, that's something I think about all the time when I'm working with companies and when I'm thinking about how to help companies be more effective in their operations. When I first started my company, I was living in Chicago, and many of my early clients were Japanese manufacturing companies, particularly in the auto industry. So companies that made cars and made auto parts. So I had a lot of exposure to working with Japanese business people who were really masters of Japanese quality techniques, and they were bringing those to the United States to share with their American colleagues. And I learned so much from talking with them, and particularly what had a big influence on me were the concepts of genin suikyu and saihatsu boshi. That when something doesn't go well, you want to find out why it's not going well, and then you want to plan how can we make sure that that doesn't happen again. And that is something that I apply to so many things in life. Okay, something doesn't go well, we have a problem, something I've slipped up or I messed up. Okay, instead of just being negative about it, how can we make that an opportunity to learn? And so that was something I learned, very early in my career from those Japanese clients that has been a great reference for me. My undergraduate that I went to did not have a business major, and I was a history major. So my major was history, and when you study history, what do? You look at a lot of information, the historical record, particularly you want to look at actual documents from the time, understand all that information. You need to then synthesize it and draw conclusions and then communicate your conclusions. And you usually communicate those conclusions in writing. So what I got very good at through my studies of history was in absorbing lots of information. And I guess before absorbing, you have to find the information. And then synthesizing it, analyzing it, and drawing some conclusions and telling people about it. And that is something that I learned as a skill that has served me so well in my work as a consultant. So outside of business, there's so many areas that are of interest to me. My hobby or thing I like to do best in life is learn new things. And recently, outside of business, I've been very fascinated. There's a lot of fascinating scientific advancement recently in the area of longevity and anti-aging. And there are some professors in the United States who are doing some very interesting research. And I enjoy listening to podcasts. And that's a great method now for learning new things. And so I've been listening to podcasts from Harvard professors and Stanford professors, et cetera, learning more about how the body works and some of these new scientific advancements. And also, there are so many wonderful apps that are available, and so many people who write blogs or Substacks. I'm a big Twitter user, and I find that that is a great way to find out about new things. I'm always trying to improve my Japanese skills, and there are some wonderful tools that have been made, and I like using those, and it's fun, and also I improve my vocabulary, or I improve my reading comprehension. So one thing I think that it's really important for all business people to be aware of right now are environmental issues. Climate change is rapidly reaching a crisis situation. And when you look at the causes of climate change, a lot of it has to do with use of energy. And obviously businesses are significant users of energy and are also using a lot of natural resources. So really now it's the responsibility of all businesses to be looking at how to be reducing their energy use, reducing their resource use, and in order to be fulfilling their responsibilities to society. And that's something that I really want all business people to be focusing on. And one thing that's a big trend too is now investors are saying to businesses, we want you to focus on these things. So if you as a business want to continue to receive support from the investment community, that's something you have to pay attention to for that reason as well. Well, one thing that's a big trend recently is the use of artificial intelligence. And experts say that it's only going to grow as the tools using AI are going to become better and better. So then that leads to the question of, well, what is left for us as people? What are we going to do? And that's where I think that we really have to focus on what makes us human. And that goes back to the liberal arts idea of how good are you at gathering information and synthesizing it and making judgments on it in a way that really is beyond what a computer can do. I have to report something that I personally find kind of depressing, that when I was an undergraduate at my alma mater, Yale, the most popular major was history, which was my major. I'm told that today almost nobody majors in history. And by far the most popular major at Yale now is computer science. Now, I really understand why lots of people want to study computer science, because obviously it's very important knowledge as computers and software are becoming more and more central to so many things. But on the other hand, it makes me kind of sad that there's this push, oh, we have to study something practical, that even when you are studying something that's maybe not particularly applicable today. So I told you I studied a lot of Meiji era Japanese history or medieval Europe, etc. That might not apply to today, but the skills that I learned from those studies really was helpful. And there was a saying, there was a poster that I had on my wall when I was in high school, and I'm sorry I forgot who said it. It was some famous person who said, a mind once stretched never returns to its former shape. So in other words, once you learn something, you've expanded your mind, that expansion of your intellectual capabilities or thought processes is going to be permanent. So that's what liberal arts can help you with. It expands your mind in all sorts of different ways. So I think always thinking about, oh, let's do what's practical, you might miss some of that. So I really think that liberal arts is about having a wide base of knowledge and ideas that you have been exposed to. Now, when I may be showing my age a little bit with this, but when I was an undergraduate, that was all about the Western canon. And so, studying the Greeks and the Romans and people from Europe. Now, some people say critically, oh, dead white males. But at that time, that was what the focus was on. I think today, liberal arts, still you want to learn the Western canon, but you also want to be exposed to ideas and experiences and history of different groups geographically, also be exposed to women within the European societies. So I think the definition today is broader, which I think is a good thing. But I think it still has the idea of you want to be exposed to a lot of different things. because that stimulates your thinking, that hones your thinking, and it also gives you more examples and data in your mind that you can relate to and that you can refer to when you think about things. And so again, I think that broad exposure is really important. So I think that liberal arts attitude can really be applied in our everyday. So again, because I'm always trying to learn about new fields and new things and I'm curious about them, that gave me something new that I could bring to my client and apply to their situation.